right, fine.
Most honorable Geralt, slayer of monsters and all evils nefarious, which prey on the defenseless of this world.
So Balthazar Valentine.
Regan Harper.
Yeah, so The Witcher 3, Blood and Wine.
Mine. Both things relevant to our youths, probably.
Sorry.
And now CDPR's latest expansion, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
If you were to sum it up quickly in a few words.
The definitive Witcher 3 experience.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
I'd say it takes everything that the core game did well, and it emphasizes those things and even builds upon them more.
Yeah, absolutely. How would I describe it? That's a really, now that you've put those words in my mouth, I'm like, yeah, I just want to say
exactly
the same thing. It takes everything. Yeah, absolutely. It takes everything, and even down to the really fine details as well. So, like, it changes to the the menu layouts and all that kind of setup. Spot on. Just little things like if you recall having to do alchemy or find particular pieces of stuff that you want to use for your armor. In previous iterations, you'd have to find the thing, go into the recipe or the blueprints for it, and go, oh, I need that, and then so you go back out, you go into the shop and go, hey, and then you're trying to find a little symbol that looks the same, and now you can go into a crafting menu and just press triangle and buy it from them if you have it. Things like that, which are just, you kind of think to yourself, oh, they probably should have been in there to start off with, but they've just, which is just CD Projekt Red, right? Just making it happen. What about the story?
I thought it was great. I preferred it to the core game story, I think, largely because it's weird. It seems to be a current trend in gaming, and not just video gaming, tabletop gaming, everything, undead and vampires and kind of oppressed cities overrun with vampires, and I'm on a real high of that stuff at the moment. So I was like, oh yeah, it's more of that.
Vampires.
More of that. Awesome.
And they're fucking badass vampires.
They're amazing in this game. I mean, that I'm sure. Have you finished it now as well? Or
mostly. There's like the last little.
Just that really cool fight scene towards the end between two high vampires. Just you really feel the raw power that these things have, and you're like, clearly, they're just completely just incomprehensible to normal mortals.
They're so far
level of power is just insane.
There's some really cool bits. We won't go into too much because we want to keep things relatively spoil free. But if you want to see some badass motherfucking vampires, then check this out for sure. Story, I thought the story was really good as well. It seemed to. While I really love the main sort of game story and even the first DLC, this one sort of had. It was a little bit more nuanced in some ways, and that they brought in old characters, and you could see how they were building up this conflict between certain characters, and then you're like, well, shit, how is this going to resolve? And as you make your decisions, it does resolve in a really satisfying way. Having only played it through once, and I get the impression there's multiple endings. It's really satisfying to see the kind of wheels turning and the different decisions that you make impact on the outcome, and big outcomes too, like ones that you actually feel emotionally attached to.
Yeah, and I think one thing they do really well too is the character not progression, leveling wise. I mean, like the evolution and development of character personalities and traits throughout the story too. I mean, I don't know the exact turning point for me because I never noticed it happen. It was just at the start of the DLC, doing quests with Anarietta running around and her being a badass and just, ripping off her skirt and being like, oh, hey, and I get on board. And I was like, this character's awesome. I fucking love this character. And then I remembered her like that from the start of the DLC when I'd reached the end and fucking loathed her by the end of it. And I was like, when was that turning point? I didn't even notice. They so subtly just changed the way this character interacted with you to the point that I never noticed when I suddenly started hating her. I just remember that I loved her at the start and I hated her at the end.
And it was really well done. They seemed to, because when I think about that, I think, oh, cool, they did change my impression as I went through, but it was not necessarily that it was jarring or they had done something weird with the character. they had literally portrayed that character how that character was meant to be, and then through added experience with that character, you realize that, hey, she's actually just this way, and it wasn't like a fumbled story or anything. It was just really well presented, character driven kind of storytelling. Really fucking cool.
It was.
Probably some of the best I've seen in a video game.
Yeah,
which is a big call. Tucson itself was pretty interesting. The area, you've probably seen this in other reviews and things around the web if you've seen any. But just the ridiculous nights and the obsession with
valor and honor.
It's fucking ridiculous. And Geralt the whole time he's just almost walking around with a smirk on it, like a wry smirk, just thinking this is such bullshit. And there's a point at the beginning of the DLC as well where a couple knights from Tucson are actually in Valen or Novigrad, wherever it happens to start off, and they come out and they go, we'll talk to them first. We'll talk to these brigands first, and we'll see if we can. And Geralt's just like, you're wasting your breath. Like, what are you talking about? And sure enough, it ends in a fight. And it's brilliant.
Talking of their strange traditions and everything, I'm curious. Ravix of Fourhorn or Geralt of Rivia?
I went Geralt of Rivia.
You did? I went Ravix.
Oh, nice. Yeah. See, because there's lots of things it does like that in this DLC where it calls back to things that have happened in previous games, and I'm just like, well, I've not played Witcher 1 and 2, so I don't know any of the history, so I'm just going to go with Geralt.
I wasn't sure either, just the Rivian armour was silver with red, and the Fourhorn armour was black with gold.
You chose it based on what the armour looked like.
Black with gold.
Great. The funny thing is, if you announce yourself as Geralt of Rivia, I'm not sure if the same thing happens with the other choice, but one of the guys who is in the tourney is also from Rivia. And it has beef with you if you say you're Geralt of Rivia. Did the same thing happen?
He was still from Rivia, and he basically called me out on it, and he was like, I don't know what you're doing or what you're pretending to be, but I know who you are.
I see.
So he doesn't, so he calls you out on your lie, pretty much.
It's great. There's lots of little things like that, and it actually really makes me want to go back and play the first couple games to really learn all of those bits and pieces, because they do that through the whole game as well, even in the main storyline. What about the added sort of character progression stuff?
The mutations? I found the mutations to make it a little too easy, personally. It could have just been the one I chose, but I unlocked a mutation that gives me a chance to, whenever I use Ard, freeze enemies as well as knocking them down. And if both procs trigger at the same time, so it freezes and knocks down, they shatter when they fall over and die instantly. So I maxed out Ard, used the secondary thing where it sends a shockwave all around you instead of just in front of you, and I'd just run into a group shockwave and everything would die instantly. So, I mean, that was my choice. I overly simplified it by doing that, but I feel the mutations really did add to your character, like the feel of your character's build.
I think the game is angled in a way that if you are really focused with your skill choices, you can make, if you play to that set of skills, Geralt is just fucking unstoppable. Like I've gone for sort of a light armor, adrenaline gain type character, and I can basically run into a battle. I've got skills that give me adrenaline straight away. Hold down the attack button, he starts flinging his sword around, and anyone who runs near me just gets their head chopped off, and it's great fun.
What about the Grandmaster Witcher sets? Have you done any of those yet?
Done those, yeah. Got the feline Grandmaster set. The interesting thing, because I guess it's because it's light armor, and as far as it's kind of a base stats for protection and all that kind of stuff, it's not. There's other armor that's way better. But the perks that it gives you for a particular type of build is really good. But that's the only one I've tried. So
I went the Grandmaster Ursine gear, so the heavy tanking gear.
Nice, yeah.
And that one is just face roll. Pretty much its special ability is when your Quen shield breaks, it recasts Quen for free on you. And that procs every 90 seconds, I think.
Wow.
So pretty much if you can keep your shield up for more than 90 seconds every time it breaks, even if it's a free one that it put back on it, if it's been more than 90 seconds, it will recast it back on it again. So pretty much my strat was build that armor, cast Quinn, and then swap to Ard and never swap back to Quinn again,
Yeah.
because it would just be permanently
That's
up and I'd
amazing.
never take damage. And then I'd use Shockwave Ard, and if it didn't kill things, I'd use the same strategy: you hold down square and just spin.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
spin for
spin
days.
about. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like this is presumably Geralt's last adventure. So they would have had to throw it. They would have thought like, fuck it, we just got to make him legendary. So I thought it was really cool, and allowing the use of all those ability points that you probably haven't spent on anything for a bunch of levels because you've sort of run out of slots to put abilities into was pretty cool as well. Having a use for that. But in general, bloody bonza.
Yeah, if you're on the fence because you've already put 100 hours into the core game and you're thinking, could I really return and spend more? I'd say absolutely yes, definitely. It is like a whole nother game, a whole nother same Witcher still, but none of it feels recycled or rehashed from the core game. It does all feel like solid, new, enjoyable content. And if you're someone who didn't get your fill of The Witcher 3, you maybe only played a few hours and you're looking for a reason to get back into it, I'd definitely say this is that reason as well. So really, unless you absolutely hated The Witcher 3, in which case, we'll be clear, it is still The Witcher 3. If you didn't like the core game, you probably won't like Blood and Wine still. But if you enjoyed it, it's definitely worth picking up.
There you go.